Ladies and gentlemen, if you please take your seats, we'll get started. Good evening, everyone, and welcome. Welcome to an evening for healers. I'm Kevin Flood, President and CEO of the LSU Health Sciences Foundation. Tonight, we bring together over 800 of our closest supporters to honor the healers and heroes who saved and forever changed the lives of 3 patients. That's right, for the first time in the 9-year history of this event, we'll be honoring 3 patients. Their stories were just too amazing for us not to share with you. And I'm proud to share that our patients tonight hail from North, Central, and South Louisiana, showcasing the statewide reach of the Health Sciences Center. This evening, we will hear about the positive difference LSU Health Shreveport and our partner hospital, Ochsner LSU Health Shreveport, are making in our community. Thank you all for joining us tonight for what will be a memorable evening. At this time, I would like to invite Father Peter Mangum, Diocesan Administrator of the Diocese of Shreveport and Rector of the Cathedral of St. John Berkmans, to provide tonight's invocation.
Let us pray. Lord, bless every aspect of this gathering this evening for healers, those who will tell their stories, and all of us who listen attentively, to those who have experienced life-changing medical emergencies. Bless our heroes who brought them hope and healing right here in Shreveport, and the many others behind the scenes who make a difference when it comes to any emergency. Lord, you are the divine physician. Make us generous of heart, such that this 9th annual fundraiser supporting LSU Health Shreveport will be an enormous success. Because, Lord, we may be the direct beneficiaries of their services one day. Bless this evening, our food, our conversation, and all that we do. Amen.
Thank you, Father Peter. Everyone, please enjoy your dinner. One thing is the service staff has asked that you please remain seated until the entree is served. Tonight is about honoring those who make a life-changing difference in our community. It is also about raising awareness of just how fortunate we are to have LSU Health Shreveport as a vibrant, vital part of North Louisiana. Through your financial support of an evening for healers tonight, you help LSU Health Shreveport recruit and retain talented faculty. You provide new research and educational opportunities for our students, residents, and faculty. And you provide the financial flexibility we need to continue giving our community access to highly specialized care. And we don't do these things just to make ourselves better. We do them to make Louisiana a better, safer, and healthier state. I would now like to introduce Lisa Babin, who will be our MC for the evening. Lisa is the Executive Director of Public Affairs, Communication, and Development for LSU Health Shreveport. She has deep ties to our community and to LSU Health Shreveport, having previously served as the first foundation president. I'd like to also just give a quick thank you. A thank you to Lisa, to Megan Strecker in her office, and to my staff at the foundation, in particular Mary Cobb, for the fantastic work that they do every year to put this event together. Lisa, the podium's yours.
Thank you, Kevin. It's an honor to be a part of this very special night and to see such a large crowd in support of our beloved Health Sciences Center. I know we all welcome the opportunity to recognize the gifted healers who forever change the lives of the patients that you will meet tonight. Through their skills and compassion, We will shed a role on first responders who had a dramatic impact on patient outcomes. Those of you who are here from the Bossier Fire Department and Life Air Rescue, you represent countless others who selflessly serve our community day in and day out. Know that we are so grateful for the sacrifice that you and your families make each day when you put yourself in harm's way. Tonight, we say thank you to all of those in the room whose lives and mission are to help others through life's unexpected medical challenges. As Kevin said, we are here tonight to support LSU Health Shreveport, an organization that we can all rally behind. It's an incredible asset in our community and one of our crown jewels. And isn't it nice that there's something that we can all come together? There's nothing about LSU Health Shreveport not to be excited about and to be a part of, and I think that's demonstrated by the cross-section of individuals that we have here tonight. The patient stories that you will hear and see soon will show why each one of us should support our Health Sciences Center. Just as these patients never expected to require the complex medical care that they did, we all value the fact that if we need it, it is here for us and our loved ones. I want to offer a special thanks to the wonderful efforts of this evening's event chairs, Mary Pat Morgan and Dr. Ed Morgan. Stand up. Y'all stand up so everybody can see who you are, please. Stand up, please. Ed is an orthopedic surgeon in private practice and an assistant professor in the Department of Orthopedic Surgery at LSU Health. Mary Pat is also a health caregiver as a graduate of the LSU School of Nursing and now serves as a community volunteer. Most importantly, they have trusted their most precious asset, their only daughter, Allie, to us, who is a very active second-year medical student. Thank you, Mary Pat and Ed, for all that you did to make tonight a success. Now, please enjoy your dinner, and we will resume the program in about 15 minutes. Thank you.
This conveys their commitment to LSU Health Shreveport and our new partnership. Warner Thomas and his team have given 100% toward this partnership, maybe more, 110%. And LSU looks forward to all that we will accomplish together. This joint venture partnership, only 6 months old, is improving quality and access to care with investments in facilities, technology, people, and progress. Let me highlight just a few of these areas. As part of our $40 million, that's $40 million Phase 1 expansion this year at the Margaret Place campus, new GI and neurosurgery clinics, which opened in just the last 2 months, have happened. It's something that we promised, and it's happened. Future phases are being assessed. The Margaret Place expansion represents only one component of our overall improvement and growth strategy. Several locations for expansion, including urgent care and primary care, are being evaluated. At our existing facilities, at our existing hospital on Kings Highway, more than $30 million in deferred maintenance and upgrades are underway and scheduled for completion just this calendar year. As you recall, we have $150 million in deferred maintenance in that facility, and the plan is to distribute that over the next 5 years so that we will meet our goals of taking care of all that deferred maintenance. More than $10 million in new biomedical equipment has already been ordered to support the faculty, residents, and students as they strive to provide the very best care to the citizens of North Louisiana. 86 new physician hires have been accomplished by Chuck Daigle and his team since October of 2018. That's pretty darn impressive. Many of these were physicians that were going to leave North Louisiana and go practice elsewhere, so that's even more critical. Access improvements have been happening on both campuses in Monroe and in Shreveport. Our inpatient volume is up by 5%, our surgery volume up by 11%, and clinic visits up by 6%. So we're improving access and trying to expedite getting patients in and out. Representing the Ochsner Health System, I'd like to recognize Dr. Butch Adolph, Ochsner Regional Medical Director, North Louisiana. Come up here, Butch. He represents North Louisiana and Lake Charles and a member of the Ochsner Health System Board of Directors. I'd like to ask him to come up and make some comments. And come up here, Butch. Butch is a pediatric surgeon, and every single pediatric surgeon I have ever met is like being the super nicest guy in the world.
Until me.
And no, including you, Butch. And I don't know if it's a combination of the fact that they take care of kids, and it's a combination of pediatrics and surgery, but Butch is that guy. Thank you for being here.
All right. Thanks, Dr. Ghali. This is my second year attending. I didn't have a chance to speak last year. The room looks a lot bigger this year than it did last year. As Dr. Ghali said, I'm on the Ochsner Health System Board of Directors and serve as the Regional Medical Director for Ochsner in this area. And my day job is as a pediatric surgeon. So I just want to make a few comments. I know I'm standing between you and the most important events of the evening. So I'm proud to represent Ochsner. We're honored to have the opportunity to participate in this event that really acknowledges people who are dedicated to the care of the most important thing we do, which is the care of patients. Last year, I was here, and there were two amazing stories of some incredibly complex patients in the very huge care teams that took care of them. It's really amazing to see that amount of effort put into saving and changing lives here in North Louisiana. In my role as a regional medical director, I've been part of this partnership since it started in the beginning. Yesterday was the 6 months anniversary, and as Dr. Ghali said, we've expanded clinics in the marketplace properties, and that's the first stage of what we know will be multiple investments to reinvigorate and enhance that area of the city, part of our commitment as a partnership to improve the community. As Dr. Ghali also mentioned, we've had lots of improvements in access to care as a commitment, evidence of our acknowledgement of the needs that are in the community. We've started providing some same-day access for primary care. We've opened up a hepatitis C clinic for those patients who have some unique health care needs and made some same-day access available in primary care. We've also made significant investments in the facilities, as Dr. Ghali mentioned, $30 million of maintenance in the hospital, $10 million of medical equipment to improve the environment for not only the patients, but for all the members of the healthcare team who help take care of those patients in the hospital. In terms of education and research, there's several important accomplishments that we're very proud of. There's already plans underway to increase the size of the med school class to 150 over the next couple of years, and we're working with the state and LSU to generate the funds to build a medical education building that would allow the potential to increase the class size to 200 in the future. We had a successful match day this year. Thanks. So, we had a very successful match day this year. This year more than any other past year. We've had LSU Shreveport students matching for their residency programs in New Orleans, and Ochsner University of Queensland students matching in Shreveport for their residency. So it's a good manifestation of our partnership and collaboration. In terms of research, we've made some foundational grants that will make it possible to increase the number of clinical trials that patients here will be able to enroll in to be able to provide the most cutting-edge forms of medicine and advanced care. And we're working on developing some combined residencies. Things like nuclear medicine and physical medicine and rehab are in the works to be able to provide complex training for residents to be able to stay in Louisiana for that advanced training. And then finally, most important, the reason we're really here tonight is the people. None of the progress that we have made, which we have done together, would be possible without the people, and that's a lot of people in this room as well as the rest of the people in Shreveport and LSU. Since our partnership began, as Dr. Ghali mentioned, we recruited an incredible number of physicians who are attracted to the academic medical center that we are building here, which is going to be the foundation. It's not just two hospitals, it's a healthcare system that we are building for North Louisiana to improve the healthcare here. Aligned with Ochsner's board decision, the board here supported raise in the minimum wage to $12 an hour and also implemented a merit increase system. That's always a popular item. As a result of that, that's $4 million of extra income to the employees of the healthcare system to help improve their lives and the lives of their families. So I want to thank the board for supporting that. This progress, which is really just the beginning of the partnership, I've been at Ochsner for 25 years, and the thing that I am most proud of, that I think I'll be able to look back on with the most happiness, is what I think is the beginning here of a true healthcare system for Louisiana, North Louisiana, with LSU as the center, academic medical center, as the hub of that healthcare system. I'd like to thank the LSU Health System board for all their guidance and support, and then the LSU Foundation for their support of tonight's event. And I'd like to recognize the people that were really here tonight to hear the stories of the patients that they've taken care of, and thank you for the opportunity to be here and represent Ochsner. Thank you.
So thank you, Butch. That was wonderful. I was thinking when Butch was talking, and one of the things that popped in my mind was one of the things that they recently implemented with the help of Leo and some of the others in the organization. And one of the things that's really super important for me and actually our entire leadership team in the Health Science Center is to try to improve diversity in our campus. You know, when I got there, there were hardly any minorities that were really working on the campus, and the senator here has been on me about that in sort of a good way. I mean, and it's true, and I don't care how you look at it. There's just not. It's not representative of the patients that we treat there. It's not representative of the patients that live in North Louisiana. And so I think it's incumbent upon me as the responsible person to do everything I can to try to improve diversity there. One of the things that we did, I know, a couple of years ago with the help of the Board of Supervisors, was to provide up to 40 tuition waivers, predominantly for underrepresented ethnic groups for the School of Medicine. And that was a big deal. And one of the things that recently Ochsner has stepped forward and done is to create a full ride scholarship for an Xavier student to attend medical school here at LSU Shreveport. That's a big deal because sure. We're having to compete with universities around the country that are well endowed. In some places like NYU, providing tuition, free of charge to the students. Of course, they're talking about $1 billion or $2 billion endowment. Someday we'll get there, I hope, with the help of folks like you in the audience. But I will tell you that this is a great first step because if you look at the number of historically black colleges and universities that we're proud to have in the great state of Louisiana, many of those top students that are graduating from them are going out of state. And as you know, once they go out of state, it's hard to bring them back. So it's important. So I applaud Ochsner's help, and I applaud the help that we've gotten from President Alexander and LSU to make that happen on the LSU side. I also want to recognize the chairman for the Shreveport City Council, Mr. Jerry Bowman. Jerry, where are you? Are you in here? Thank you, Mr. Chairman, for being here and the support from the city. Thank you so much. At this time, I would like to ask members of the LSU Foundation Board of Directors and Chair, Mrs. Katie Merriman, to stand and be recognized. Where are you? any of the current board members. I know I saw some of y'all there. Thank you. Our foundation is a tremendous asset to our Health Science Center. I'm truly indebted to each and every board member who shares of their time and talents for the benefit of LSU. I'd also like to ask past chairs of this Healers event to stand and be recognized for collectively raising more than $2 million through this signature fundraiser. Former chairs, stand. There you are. They've really raised an awareness of the offerings and impact of our Health Sciences Center, and most importantly, have made it possible to honor hundreds of first responders, physicians, and healthcare professionals who work tirelessly every day to save lives. Thank you again. I would like to recognize from the LSU Board of Supervisors, Ms. Valencia Sarpy-Jones. Please stand, Val. She's an incredible asset, supporter. She's from Natchitoches, Louisiana. She's here with her husband, Jerry, who is a graduate of our School of Allied Health Professions. So thank you for being here, and thank you for all the support that you give. You give Larry and I on a daily, weekly, monthly basis. Thank you so much, Val, for being here. Chancellor Larry Clark. Chancellor Clark, please stand. He is the Chancellor of LSU Shreveport. Thank you for being here, Chancellor Clark. Our Provost and Vice Chancellor of Academic Affairs at our Health Science Center, Dr. Jane Eggerstadt. Where are you, Jane? Thank you for being here. My additional Vice Chancellors all make a critical part of our team. Dr. Chuck Fox, our Vice Chancellor of Clinical Affairs. Dr. Lester Wayne Johnson, Vice Chancellor of Clinical Affairs over our Monroe campus. Mr. Jeff Reynolds, our Vice Chancellor of Administration and Finance. Our deans, Dr. David Lewis. Where are you, David? Our dean, Dr. Chris Kevel, also Vice Chancellor of Research. Where are you, Chris? Thank you, sir. Dr. Dennis Wissing, who's been our interim dean. Where are you, Dennis? Our interim dean of the School of Allied Health, and has done an unbelievable job in that interim basis, and I congratulate him on that. And our new incoming dean will be Dr. Sharon Dunn, will be the dean of the School of Allied Health. Thank you. At this time, I'd like to share comments from LSU President King Alexander, who had planned to be here tonight but was unable to make it due to travel issues related to weather between DC and here. And his comments are, what a great evening. I'd like to thank everyone in attendance tonight for supporting our outstanding Health Sciences Center and all the medical faculty, staff, and our 1,000 students who are committed to the health of North Louisiana in this important region of the country. I was very much looking forward to attending tonight, but unfortunately, due to bad weather and a series of flight cancellations, I'm sending my best wishes, thanks, and congratulations on a job well done from an airport in Washington, D.C. Behind the outstanding leadership of Chancellor Ghali and his team and the new partnership, that's the part I made up, in the new partnership with Ochsner, one of the nation's great hospital networks, we're poised like never before for new avenues of reinvestment and growth of our LSU Health Sciences Center. We also thank Governor Edwards for his commitment to strengthening LSU's medical impact on the health of this region and the state and the educational opportunities every citizen of this region and all students in Louisiana. In addition to LSU's commitment, along with a great partner like Ochsner, to growth and enhancement of the health of this region, our commitment to providing higher education opportunities to students of all ages at LSUS has never been stronger. Behind the leadership of Chancellor Larry Clark, LSUS keeps breaking enrollment and graduation records in historic fashion. Great job, Larry. Thank you for your constant support of our two critical LSU institutions who measure their success by the economic, educational, and social well-being of northern Louisiana and this region. And it is the entire LSU family that is committed to this same goal. Your efforts here enhance the role your communities will play in LSU now and in the future. Now let's enjoy the rest of the evening, and thank you again, President F. King Alexander. As I mentioned before, the Ochsner Health System is our presenting sponsor, and we certainly thank them. Now I'd like to recognize our underwriting sponsors who allow us to maximize the funds raised this evening. I'll start with our Healers Honorees sponsor, the Willis-Knighton Health System. They have generously supported this event since its inception, and please join me in thanking them. If you could please hold your applause as I recognize the following additional underwriting sponsors. The Welcome Reception sponsor, Christus Health Shreveport Bossier, Chris Karam and Isaac Palmer. Thank you. Valet, you didn't listen to me. Valet sponsor, Moffitt, Volkswagen, Porsche, Audi, Mazda, the Moffitt family. Invitation sponsor, Promise Hospital, Dr. Joe Jones. Thank you, Joe. Healer Medal sponsor, Lee Michaels Fine Jewelry, Mr. Greg Johnson. Dean level sponsor, Mr. and Mrs. John Atkins. Thank you. Chairman level sponsors, we have 5. Han Construction, Casey and Brad Han. Mr. Kevin Murphy, Lavier Wealth Management. LSU Health Department of Anesthesiology, Dr. Chuck Fox. The Mack brothers, there they are. The Honorable Andy Mack, Dr. Ben Mack, and Dr. Chris Mack. Thank you, guys. MST Consulting, Southern Dental and Rehab Services of Louisiana, Mr. Matthew St. Amant. Thank you, Matthew. A round of applause for these 5 chairman-level sponsors. While these high-level sponsors are essential to reaching our fundraising goal, I want to convey my sincere appreciation to every table sponsor, as well as those who purchased individual tickets. Every dollar given in support of our Health Sciences Center helps meet a need that otherwise would go unmet. Thank you. I promise I'm getting close so we can get to the good part. We have many dedicated faculty, employees, and students. I would also like to acknowledge all of our dedicated employees and students who are here this evening. Thank you for greeting and assisting our guests and for all you do for our Health Sciences Center. Thank you for your dedication and support. As you hear more about the highly specialized care required by our 3 patient stories tonight, please keep in mind that this level of multidisciplinary community care would be impossible without our academic medical center. And recall, we are only one of 145 of these academic medical centers in this great United States of America, and only one of 2 level 2 trauma centers in the entire great state of Louisiana. Healthcare remains one of the strongest pillars of our local economy, and LSU Health is the very foundation of that pillar, with its annual direct economic impact of over $600 million and total impact in North Louisiana of nearly $3 billion. Over 70% of the physicians and allied health professionals in our community receive a portion or all of their education and training at LSU. All but 2 of Louisiana's 64 parishes have at least one of our Shreveport or Monroe Health Science Center graduates practicing there. We're proud that so many of our students and residents choose to stay in our region, and I pray that our state funding will allow that trend to continue so that we have sufficient medical providers to care for the citizens of our great state. My leadership team, and indeed the entire joint venture, is committed to this and will strive to make our Health Science Center less dependent on state funding. By growing our clinical revenue in research enterprises, this I am completely committed to. I am privileged to serve as the chancellor and blessed to have a great leadership team, a team that supports this mission and vision. Enjoy your evening. Thanks for your support. God bless you, and God bless everyone in Louisiana. Thank you.
It is my joy to tell you that we are starting into the heart of the event, which is to remind ourselves of the important role that first responders and healthcare providers play every day in our community. Take a minute, close your eyes. Think of a handsome young teenage boy out enjoying the beautiful Kisatchie National Park with his family, and then the heartbreak of a fall leaving him paralyzed from the chest down. Taylor was airlifted to Shreveport, where North Louisiana's only pediatric neurosurgeon was able to give him at least a chance to one day walk again. This is Taylor's story.
I live in Campty. It's just a little town, hour and a half south of Shreveport. I'm in ROTC in school. I've got 2 brothers. I played football 2 years. Well, it was a Saturday morning. We went out to Kisatchie. We got there, we swam down the creek a little to where the swimming spot was. There's a log that spans over the water. We were playing and I was on top of the log and I slipped off and I landed on my head. Instantly, I couldn't move. When I floated to the top, my little brother was running around playing and I got his attention. There was another family of people that was down there. They called an ambulance. It took them about an hour to get there because we were so far off. We drove probably about 45 minutes to where they could land a helicopter to fly me. And went to LSU. It was pretty painful. I've never experienced anything like that in my life. I was terrified.
There's lots of reasons to call a helicopter. This specific day was geographical. They were remote. This day in September was my one and only time to land in Kisatchie National Forest, and that is memorable when you see it from the air. It is massive and impressive. And I remember our pilot, Ryan Baker, he said, I am going to be very careful with this scene because we don't have much room to land. When we landed, the ground crews had already gotten Taylor out of the woods, and we met them in an ambulance. We hopped in the back of the medic unit to meet our patient, and it was obvious to everyone there that he had no sensation from, I believe it was the nipple line down. And this was a true emergent situation where we needed to get this child to the level 1 trauma center as quickly as possible. We loaded Taylor in the helicopter and we lifted off for LSU.
When my resident, Dr. Barry, called me that night, he told me that, yes, this child was here and he had gone and assessed him and that he did not have any sensation below basically his upper chest down, and he was not able to move his legs. And when he was repeating the imaging out to me, he described what we call as a burst fracture of C6, which is one of the vertebrae of the cervical spine. Immediately when he was telling me this story, we know that it's a big problem. And certainly we're worried about him being paralyzed for the rest of his life. His heart rate was very, very low when he was brought to the hospital. His blood pressure was very, very low, essentially indicating that he was in spinal shock. This is a very serious situation.
I'll never forget my baby looking at me and saying, Mama, I feel like I'm a burden.
I remember talking to somebody about it. I asked him if I was ever gonna walk again. And he told me he didn't know.
Once they stabilized him, they got some scans, then we took him to MRI to get a better picture of actually the spinal cord and looking at the ligaments of the spine. So we planned the next morning to take him to surgery to try to take that pressure off the spinal cord and repair that fracture. I remember telling his family, you know, there's a chance that he may not walk again. He may not regain that feeling. He may not be able to move his legs again. But the quicker we can get in there, the quicker we can get the pressure off, the quicker we can stabilize his spine, the quicker we can try to get him to rehab and hope that he gets something back. For surgery, we brought him down to our operating room. Once we get down to the front part of the spine, we could obviously immediately see that fracture. We will then put some pins basically in the bone above and below to, again, help kind of stabilize the spine. Under the microscope, we make an incision into the disc space, we clean out all the discs, we take our drill and we'll drill out all of the bone that's fractured down to the ligament. We'll take that ligament down over the top of the spinal canal, and then we're basically looking at the sac that holds your spinal cord, your spinal fluid. We were able to actually see that sac and see that it was still intact, so that's always a good sign for us. We think, okay, good, maybe there's something that's still intact, he'll get that function back. And then once we get all the bone and everything cleaned out, we essentially have to fill that space. We pack a cage, a titanium cage that's packed with his own bone that we've taken out and some bone product. We pack it very firmly into that cage and we hammer it into that space so that it's anchored to the bone above and the bone below, restoring that space where the bone is now gone. And then we put a plate and screws over top of all that hardware to anchor it into the bone above and below so that it'll hold everything in place for us and it'll maintain his alignment. And then it basically will cause that joint to be immobilized, and so they'll grow bone and fuse across that space where we just operated to stabilize his spine. Immediately after surgery, I went out and spoke with his family. Hopefully with time, as the swelling and everything goes down the spinal cord, he'll regain some function, and we just have to wait and give it time. And that, I think, is the hardest part for families and the patient themselves is, just waiting, because it is a waiting game from that point on.
I remember waking up in ICU with, I want to say Mama was there. I looked at her and I told her I couldn't feel my legs. And we cried for a little while.
But initially after surgery, he was pretty much the same. He didn't have any real significant change in his function when we came out.
He'd get better and then he'd get worse and then he'd get better and he'd get worse. I remember he woke up one night and he was complaining of his knee hurting. He's like, "Mama, my knee hurts," and I was so happy. And he got upset. He's like, "Mama, you're happy because I'm hurting?" I said, "No, baby, it's not because you're hurting. I'm happy because you're feeling something. That's a good sign."
I started to try to write. My hands were getting a little better. I started feeding myself after that too.
When Taylor left and went to rehab, I just thought, man, I hope he gets something back. We had done everything that we could do. I thought we did everything as quick as we could do it.
I never had the mindset that I was going to be in a wheelchair for the rest of my life. I told my mom I was going to walk out of the hospital.
It was amazing to go from that hallway that he walked up and down for the 2 months that he was there to walking out.
I was really happy to get out of there. Them four walls for so long, I can only handle so much.
I mean, even the smallest flicker would have been a win, but to see him recover to that extreme of walking back into my office when the last time I'd seen him, really, he, was not able to do any of that. It's why I do my job, because you can really make such a difference in someone's life.
I just want to say thank you to LSU and all of its people. They were the vessels that were used to give us the blessing that we have in him.
I'm grateful for everything that I can do. I feel LSU has given me that second chance. Everything that I've gotten so far, all the progress I've made, they made it all possible.
That's a story to clap about. What an amazing outcome, and I look forward to you seeing Taylor walk across the stage just a little later tonight. Now for our second story. Martha Wilson experienced a series of unexpected health scares in the fall of 2017, including one that left her with a damaged trachea and unable to speak. Martha's doctor in her hometown of New Orleans referred her to Dr. Paul Weinberger at the Center for Voice, Airway, and Swallowing in Shreveport, the only voice center in a 200-mile radius that is able to treat a complex case like Martha's. It was here that she found the greatest gift of all. She found hope that one day she would speak again. This is Martha's story.
That day was a normal day. I went to work, came home, we did our normal routine.
That day she went outside with me. I was playing with my puppy and she taught me how to play badminton. Then after that, we just went inside, watched a movie, ate dinner. I ended up going to sleep in her room that night.
Everything was normal. You know, I kissed my daughter goodnight and went to bed.
I was in the den watching TV. I said, time for me to go, get a bed. It was like 2 o'clock, so I got in the bed. She was trying to gag for air.
So he calls 911, and they instruct him to check for a pulse, and there's no pulse. They actually told him how to do CPR. He had never done CPR before, had never trained in it. They told him how to do it, and he starts doing CPR on his wife. I can't imagine being married myself, what that was like.
I love her, I couldn't lose her. I love her and I couldn't lose her. Fire truck came, they came inside. They picked my wife up and they took out the bed, put her on the floor. Then they pumped her chest with a machine. They shocked her twice and intubated her all at one time in the house. And after that, I told my daughter to go in the living room. And she said, "Dad, watch all this." And I told her, I said, "You all right?" She told me, "Dad, be strong."
Paramedics, they recognize, okay, this woman's not breathing, she doesn't have a pulse, so they started an airway by putting an endotracheal tube in. And unfortunately, nobody knew, but Martha had a very tiny airway. And so a normal person's airway is going to be about the size of your thumb, maybe just a little bigger. Hers is the size of her pinky. But when they put a normal sized tube in there, they saved her life. But they had no way of knowing that this was going to cause damage. And probably what it did is the tube probably tore the end of the trachea off of the larynx, so causing a complete laryngotracheal separation.
I woke up about 7 to 10 days later in the hospital, not knowing what had gone on. In the beginning, I was just thankful to be alive. But then I realized, well, okay, I can't talk. My life has changed.
When I realized she wasn't able to talk, it was like, the first time I saw her with the trach was on FaceTime. I was scared, thinking that it was gonna stay in there forever. But then I was still happy in my mind because I knew that she was alive and with me. All of the end of 2017, I thought that was gonna be the rest of my life. Just not being able to hear my mom's voice, not being able to do the same things. Just knowing what my mom has been through in her life, I know that I'll have more hard points than this coming up in my life. So I knew I had to stay strong for this one because I still have a whole life in front of me and I need to know how to get through things, just like she did.
The ENT doctor said there was nothing that could be done, and he referred me to Shreveport to Dr. Weinberger.
Dr. Weinberger told her, "You are too young not to be talking, it's not safe." He said, "We're gonna correct this."
When we were done with our first visit, and I said that I thought I could help, just the tears that welled up in his eyes, That's all the motivation you need for sure. Her airway was completely closed off below her vocal cords, and also her vocal cords didn't move. And so that's a big problem, because if you just have complete blockage of the airway between a tracheostomy and the larynx, that's still an extraordinarily difficult problem to address. But then if you also have blockage at the level of the vocal cords, that's two things that have to be fixed and can really be quite challenging. But I've done cases like this before, and so I knew that it was possible.
We went through the process and we scheduled my first procedure in July of 2018, which was where he would go in and take some cartilage from my rib area and put it in my throat to help to rebuild my airways.
We'll take a piece of rib cartilage and we'll harvest that in the first surgery. Usually take it from the sixth rib, and we shave it into kind of a long square piece, and that's going to be the structural support. And then we bank that in their neck in one of the muscles. And we leave that in place. That sits for about 8 weeks. And then we'll come back once that cartilage is healthy and happy, and then we'll do the rebuilding.
Then I went back about 3 months later and we did a skin graft and put that in my throat area.
And so we'll take a skin graft off of the thigh, and we'll wrap that around a stent, just a plastic tube basically. And then we'll take the muscles that we put the cartilage in, and we'll bring those and use those as the new wall, and the cartilage forms the structural framework. And we put the skin graft, that's going to be the new lining of the new airway.
By December of 2018, we had another procedure scheduled where he went in and he gave me a T-tube.
Which, instead of having the trach, is just a soft piece of plastic tubing that goes in like this and then has a branch point, and just a short little bit to prop open that tissue that the trach tube was pushing in. And so we put that in and woke her up, and in recovery we're able to hear her voice for the first time in quite a while. Her first words were "thank you." Yep. Which that's a joy to hear.
For Christmas of 2018, I was able to talk to my family for the first time.
She still sounds the same. I just looked, she said, I was happy. She told me she loved me. She told me she loved me.
The first thing that both of us said was, "I love you so much."
And she's here, she's talking again. She's good.
Thank you. Thank you for taking time to take care of me. And thank you for being so giving and so kind.
I love y'all. I love y'all. And whatever y'all doing, keep doing it. Because there are many people out there that need a lot of love. They're doing a beautiful job.
Her husband, that's a hero. I mean, anybody would have frozen at that moment, and he didn't.
Every time I hear her voice when she wakes me up in the morning, I smile. I smile every day. I smile because I know she's here with me. I know I'm gonna grow with her.
It's definitely made us stronger. We're inseparable. We already were inseparable, but we're definitely inseparable now.
What amazing work by Dr. Weinberger and his team. And I have to tell you, in working with Dr. Weinberger, if you say his name and you do not mention his team, he is not happy. So Dr. Weinberger, this is for you and your team, that everybody understands that you work with a team. Thank you for making it possible for Martha's family and for us to hear her beautiful voice. At this time, I'd like Taylor and Martha's healers and first responders to please line up in the hallway. Now for our final story of the evening. While driving home on a Labor Day weekend, just a regular day, in 2016, Kelley Wyatt was involved in the most severe car accident that your mind can imagine. Bossier City firefighters and the region's only Level 1 trauma team sprang into action and began a race against time to save Kelley's life. This is Kelley's story.
The call came to me about 9:15 p.m. and said, listen, Kelley's been in a bad wreck. I said, is she hurt? And he says, yes, she's hurt bad. I said, is she gonna make it? He said, I don't know. And I said, I'll get there as quick as I can. Where am I going? He said, go to LSU, that's where they're taking her. Kelley and I first met, she was a freshman. And of course, she wouldn't have anything to do with me. And about my senior year in high school, I started noticing that she was really cute. A couple years out of high school and her almost finished up college, we ended up dating. Dated for a couple of years, we've been married for 28 years.
I remember my brother and dad were dove hunting, and me and my mom went to church. And I normally would sit with the youth group with all my friends, and I just had a weird feeling that I should sit with my mom today.
Me and Dad went dove hunting that morning, like always, with some of our buddies. Had a good time and everything else. Hung out with all our friends, family, stuff like that, and then got a phone call.
It was the end of my son's freshman year, and we had purchased a house in Ruston for him to live in. And of course, it needed a lot of updating. I was actually under the house. We had ended up with a last-minute plumbing issue. Of course, it was Memorial Weekend, and he moved in the next day. And I actually got a phone call while I was under the house. And it was my uncle, which was is a Bossier City fireman, and said, I got some bad news for you. It looks, Kelley was involved in a bad wreck. Doesn't look like she's gonna make it.
We had settled in for the evening, and we heard this horrific explosion is what it sounded like. Without hesitation, I jumped up, grabbed my keys, and drove my car to the end of the boulevard. And my husband called 911, and I went over to her car, and I assessed for a pulse, and I didn't have one. There was glass everywhere, airbags deployed, I think every airbag in her vehicle. Her arm was hanging out the window, and her head was hanging down. And I could see everything else right on her chest. I guess I went into mom mode. And that could have been my child. As much as my children drive back and forth, I would want to know that somebody was with them, even if the outcome wasn't a good outcome, because nobody wants to be alone.
Probably took less than a minute to get there. We right around the corner, took a left, and we're there. And we see one vehicle, the Jeep, in the turn lane, and Kelley's car almost off the highway. It was bad. Probably one of the worst ones I'd seen. You know, the car was heavily damaged, and as soon as we saw Kelley in there, and you know, she was alive, you know, she was moaning, and so Engine 9 does have some extrication tools on it. We immediately deployed them and started working on the car.
They were working on the driver's side, trying to get her where they could get her out. The paramedics were working from the other side.
There's a technique called rolling the dash. We did that, and the brake pedal was still around her ankle, and I lifted, turned it one more time, and it spread out a little more, and I saw daylight, and that's when I picked her up and pulled her out.
It was a load and go. Once they got her out, they were in the ambulance and they were gone.
I'd heard somebody say, this is Kelley Wyatt. I've known Kelley since high school, and the person that I've seen in that car didn't look like Kelley. Then I saw her face in the lights of the back of the ambulance, and I knew it was Kelley.
Once one person knew, then another called, what can I do, what's going on? So I ended up having somebody go to the hospital and call me with information.
She came as a Tier 1, Level 1 activation, which is the highest grade of trauma injury a patient can sustain. And she had a severe head injury on a grade of from a mild, moderate to the severe. She had the most extreme spectrum of head injury, as well as she had a punctured lung for which she could have died on the scene if there was not timely interventions done in terms of securing the airway and decompressing the chest.
When she came in, our team was quickly involved in her care because it was pretty apparent that she had a brain injury. She had a CT scan done initially, which showed no major massive hemorrhage in the brain, but she had evidence of something that we call DAI, which is diffuse axonal injury, where these little kind of tiny punctate hemorrhages are seen, typically deep in the brain. And that's a sign that, her brain, even though there was no large hemorrhage or large pressure-inducing lesion in the brain, that there was some significant brain injury to cause the brain to kind of shear back and forth within the skull, leading to these small hemorrhages and leading to her, not being able to be interactive and following commands.
She suffered a bad proximal humerus fracture. She suffered an elbow fracture. She had bilateral wrist fractures. She had a severe comminuted, crunched up, and open femur fracture. She had an open patella fracture, meaning the skin is open, the bone is exposed. She had an open injury to her proximal shin or tibia. All these were complex fractures. She also had injury to her right lower extremity as well, soft tissue injury.
I was told she probably didn't stand a good chance of making it. There was a lot of she had flail ribs on both sides, collapsed lungs on both sides, head trauma. She had bones sticking out of her legs. She had all kind of stuff going on.
It was really hard. I remember talking to one of my best friends, and we were sitting at Nuke's and we were eating, and I just started crying, and I was like, I don't know how I'm gonna do this. 2 days ago, my mom was running and doing all these things, and now I'm being told that she may never be able to talk to me again.
Initially, when she first came in, we urgently had to address the open fractures of the leg. There was certainly the risk of loss of the leg or infection that could make her sick and put more stress on her body. Those had to be stabilized really within the first 48 hours. It was planned that she was going to undergo several stage procedures, including washing out the wounds, additional fixation. She suffered a proximal femur or left hip injury as well. That was, once the lower portions of the leg had been stabilized, that had to be addressed. Her shoulder, although it was a bad fracture, a decision was made to proceed with as little fixation as possible, and so pins were placed through the skin. A plate and screw was placed on the elbow. Fixation was applied to the hip, meaning screws. She had a fixation to her femur fracture. She had pins and wires placed into her kneecap and a plate and screws placed in her tibia. This was done over a series of several weeks after her initial injury.
It is important to realize that when she came early in the trauma bay, it was a matter of every second and minutes in order in terms of her acuity of injuries to stabilize her. And then we move to the next zone of it becomes hours and then becomes days and weeks.
She had a third-degree burn on her ankle. It had been managed by the trauma service for the first part of her hospitalization because her other injuries were much more important. And I think actually we took her to the operating room the next day and did a skin graft. We got a piece of skin from her thigh and moved it down to cover up the wound.
I seem to have always been informed, which was, just enough to worry about things that are out of your control. And to have positive, good or bad information for me to process was real good.
There was relief after the brain surgery and some of the other surgeries because it felt like we were making progress. It wasn't just like, oh, we're at a standstill again. It's we're making progress, we can keep doing this. Every surgery is a new step. Just keep on fighting.
Even someone who's young and healthy, when they have 4 extremities injured, there's a risk of death. We call that mortality. There's certainly going to be morbidity or loss of function in someone who just has those injuries. When you combine that with a closed head injury, it's very severe. She was certainly most at risk for her left leg. The ability to take her to the operating room, we were in communication. Dr. Jablon, our trauma surgeon, particularly was in communication with the trauma team daily to watch when can we take her back to the OR, when's it going to be stable, how can we put her at the least amount of risk. And Kelley was absolutely at very high risk for death, certainly long-term disability with these injuries.
First time I spoke with her was probably 3+ months.
Kelley?
Before she opened her eyes. Then my son came home from college.
How are you doing, sugar?
And she tracked him across the room. And from that point, we started seeing little improvements.
The greatest moment of my life probably was, this meant yes, this meant no. Dad would ask her a question, do you want cereal this morning? And I mean, that was it. That's the, sorry, hold on. That was the biggest progress that I've ever seen.
Yeah, we were there for 21 days in SICU. It was comforting to know that we had hope. Up until that point, we really didn't know. A lot of assumptions were made, but when you have, these 2 well-known doctors sit down with you and say, here are the facts. This is where she's going to be, how she's going to gain, what she needs, and came up with a plan, gave us something to shoot for, gave us a plan of action to work at.
Of course, I became very involved in following Kelley's care as she was treated even outside of the region when she went for specialty care in Dallas and other facilities. I coordinated with her physicians there, managing her care and providing the referrals as necessary. One of the neat things was when she really began to recover from her head injury, we were all just, and continue to be. It just seems like every day, every week, every month, she's better and better.
Even though it took some time to get her awake, I think she woke up and then she started to interact, and then the process of cognitive interaction improvement and physical interaction improvement with therapy and rehab has really, she's really made a remarkable recovery.
Well, on behalf of me and my family, I would say thank you so much.
She went to LSU because LSU is a level 1 trauma center, which is the only one in Shreveport and Bossier City. So any of our trauma calls, whether it's vehicle-related, shooting, whatever major trauma, that always goes to LSU because it is the level 1 trauma center.
They changed our lives. Without them, none of us would be the way that we are now. I'm very thankful for everything they do.
I tell people that I know, something happens, take me there.
The care that's provided for emergency situations at LSU is just unparalleled in Northwest Louisiana. I think the immediate nature of availability of every kind of service that one would need for a traumatic injury, whether it be to the brain or to the chest or to the belly or to the orthopedic system, I think every service that you would need is literally seconds or minutes away.
I can never repay y'all enough for anything. Y'all brought back my mom and helped my mom, and I'll never be able to repay you ever. Thank you so much.
Time is the key. Time is the key essence. If all these disciplines were not working together and were not taking care of Ms. Kelley in timely fashion, the outcome would not have been what we have now.
The walker, 122 feet.
There's no doubt that the LSU trauma system, our level 1 hospital here, saves lives. I honestly feel that most of the community don't know what rolls through those doors every day. The last thing any of our department looks at is someone's ability to pay or their resources outside. The first thing is, how do we take care of this patient? How do we get them better?
Thank you very much. Thank you for loving what you do. Thank you for being there for my wife and my family. Without you, we wouldn't have my wife today. And I will do anything for any of them. All they have to do is ask. I'd do anything for them.
I think God just put the right people around me.
The Wyatts are a very beloved family in our community, and we're so happy to see Kelly's amazing recovery. As some of us got the chance to see these videos as they were made, I can tell you the next video of this family needs to be a love story, because to see the care that Kelly's husband provided and how hard she worked to get back to being a good mom to her child has served as inspiration that I will never forget. At this time, I'd like to have Kelly's healers and first responders together in the hallway. Also, Dr. Golly, if you and Ed and Mary Pat Morgan would join me on the stage for the recognition ceremony. While the healers are gathering, I want to recognize CRM Studios, specifically Greg Lawrence, Kevin Alexander, and Colby Doler. I know that you join me in saluting their efforts traveling across the state and working tirelessly over these past few months to produce these outstanding patient stories this evening. It is now my pleasure to introduce our honorees, starting with Taylor's case. From Life Air Rescue, Flight Nurse TRACY King. Pilot in Command, Ryan Barker. Paramedic, Michael Baker. From LSU Health Shreveport, fourth-year general surgery resident, Dr. Rachel Cox. Third-year neurosurgery resident, Dr. Devon Lefevre. Director of Pediatric Neurosurgery, Dr. Christina Notoriani. Fourth-year anesthesiology resident, Dr. Yuri Rappaport. Professor of Pediatrics, Surgery, and Medicine, Dr. Keith Scott. Associate Professor of Anesthesiology, Dr. Harish Sadiya. And Assistant Professor of Surgery, Dr. Amos Sitt. From Ochsner, LSU Health Shreveport, Operating Nurse Christy Fields. Pediatric ICU Nurse Christy Lofton. And Operating Room Nurse Kayla Pennington. Thank you to each of you who have given the life back to Taylor FERRIER. Next, we will recognize Martha Wilson's healers. From LSU Health Shreveport, Chairman of Anesthesiology, Dr. Charles Chuck Fox. Switching sides on you. Director of the Center for Voice, Airway, and Swallowing, Dr. Paul Weinberger. Fifth-year otolaryngology resident, Dr. Mike Yang. From Oshner LSU Health Shreveport, Clinical Nurse Supervisor Molly Adams. Medical Assistant Margarita Butler. ENT Clinic Coordinator Krista Duffy. Physician Assistant Polly Kaufman. ENT Clinic Manager Zonda Thornton. These are Martha Wilson's healers. And now to Kelly Wyatt's healers. From LSU Health Shreveport, Orthopedic Surgery Physician Assistant Mike Angelo. Fourth-year trauma resident, I'm going to do my best to get this name right, but please forgive me if I do not. Dr. Adebayo Awe. Chairman of Orthopedic Surgery, Dr. Shane Barton. Fourth-year trauma resident, Dr. Jean-Luc Delafontaine. Seventh, are you listening to what I'm saying? Seventh-year neurosurgery resident, Dr. Rahman Hanisef Dasani. Assistant Professor, Trauma Acute Care Surgery, Dr. Ariel Cora Dubos. Clinical Instructor of Occupational Therapy, Wendy Evans. Third-year orthopedic surgery resident, Dr. Benjamin Fibill. Assistant Professor of Occupational Therapy, Sharon Glover. Professor of Neurosurgery, Dr. Bharat Guthakonda. Assistant Professor of Anesthesiology, Dr. Ed Herron. Third-year orthopedic surgery resident, Dr. Kaylin McClary. Physical therapy assistant, Susie Morrison. Third-year orthopedic resident, Dr. Kevin Perry. And I think you can see what a tremendous impact our residents make on care at LSU Health Shreveport. Professor of Clinical Neurology and Pediatrics, Dr. Rosario Maria Riel Romero. Associate Professor of Trauma and Critical Care Surgery, Dr. Navdeep Samra. Associate Professor of Neurosurgery, Dr. Anthony Sin. Seventh-year neurosurgery resident, Dr. Jay Thacker. Associate Director, Neurorehabilitation, Dr. Suzanne Tinsley. Third-year orthopedic surgery resident, Dr. Jennifer Walt. Third-year neurosurgery resident, Dr. Rachel Wolfson. From Ochsner LSU Health Shreveport, nurse anesthetist Brian Cornelius. Respiratory therapist Teresa FERRIER. Registered nurse Brandon Hill. Registered nurse Julie Jones. Respiratory therapist Gail Robbins. Registered nurse Colton Sedberry. And social worker Tiffany Williams. And now for our first responders from Bossier City Fire Department, Captain Paramedic Blair Bachhaus. EMT Troy Gardner. District Chief Scott Gerganis. EMS Supervisor Chief Richard Kennedy. EMT Randy Knighton. Retired Assistant Chief, this case even took a retiree. Retired Assistant Chief Randall Moses. Paramedic Anthony Restivo. And paramedic Lynn Young. And speech pathologist Stephanie Curry. I think the number of people on this stage demonstrates pretty quickly how complex these medical cases were. Do we have any patients that are going to come speak? Come on, Jeff. Jeff Wyatt will be speaking on behalf of his wife, Kelly. Thank you.
It's going to be short and sweet. I meant to roll my wife up here so y'all could see her, but I got up here too quick. Good evening, everyone. My name is Jeff Wyatt, and my wife is Kelly Wyatt. I should have said my beautiful wife. I have to say that my new nickname, being in a hospital for a year and a half, is CB. I'd walk down the hall and different doctors and nurses, and they referred to me as CB. I asked them one day, and they nicknamed me Crybaby. Because no matter what I do, I just walk around and cry. And I'm crying now. I can't read what I wrote. On September 4th, 2016, my wife was in a horrible wreck, which you saw. Shortly after the wreck, I wondered, why did this happen to her? Why did this evil thing happen? But I realized nothing happens out of chance. God has a plan, just like He prepared all these caregivers, the firemen, the policemen, the paramedics, all the trauma people, all these people up here. God prepared them and gave them the God set that they have so that they can help people. It was not by chance that the wreck happened within a few hundred yards of all the firefighters that I grew up working with. Those were my guys. I love them. And they don't usually get the recognition they deserve because they're usually on the scene. They save the babies from the fire and never see them again. And I really, really was excited to hear that this was going to be here tonight. Not just thank the firemen and the other responders, but to thank all these people here for what they do. They work all it. They go to school a long, long time. Y'all all go to school for a long time, and you show such great compassion. I'll finish real quick here. It was not by chance that we were near the fire station. It was not by chance that we arrived and we were so close to Oshner LSU Level 1 Hospital. We could have been 60 miles away on 49. We could have been somewhere else, but we were real close. And to have that in our community, I don't think people understand it. We understand it on the fire department. You know, a lot of times on the fire department, we have to make real quick decisions on, do they go to Level 1 or the closest hospital? I'm glad this Level 1 Trauma Center is here. Without all these people and all these things that took place, I wouldn't have my wife today. I just wanted to thank each and every one of you for being there when we needed you direly. You were there in our time of need. Kelly and I both believe God has big plans for her. We really do. I ask you all, please continue giving the great care and compassion like you've given us to all that you come in contact with, because what you gave us was wonderful. The compassion, the night the wreck happened, they told me the surgery was going to take place. I've always believed that most doctors were science people, and some believe in God and some don't. But the guys that were there that night, they said, can we pray with you? And man, my heart I knew that I was at the right place and that God had this in control and was going to lead these doctors with what they knew to make her better. We live in a great community, a great city, and a great state. I'm honored to call Bossier and Shreveport home. Kelly, my family, and I thank all of you for what you do for this community. That's all. I appreciate it, one of y'all.
I actually didn't prepare anything because I wasn't going to come up here, but I felt maybe it was a little necessary. Every morning I get up, every step I take, it's all because of these people here. Very grateful. I'm thankful for y'all coming up here and doing this, not only for me, but for all the other countless lives that they have changed and saved. I'm not going to say anything more. Thank y'all.
Good evening, y'all. I want to say, doctors and nurses, everybody, thank you for changing my life, making my wife better than she is. It was rough, but she is here, the more important thing. And I want to give out thanks to Dr. Weinberg and his team and everybody who's standing on this stage right here. Y'all have beautiful hands. And I thank y'all so very much.
Got to give me a minute to find my notes here. We hope that tonight you have been reminded of the value of having an academic health sciences center in your community. And for those of you who came as the guest of someone tonight, we hope that you'll reach in your pockets and that you'll think about leaving a check with us tonight. It's an expensive endeavor to have a level 1 trauma unit. We want to be here for you, but we need your support. We work diligently with the state to bring dollars in, and we need your help as well. So if you feel so inclined, we've got a box you can drop your checks in as you go out, and we deeply appreciate your attendance tonight. We hope that you've learned something new about the services that are available at LSU Health Shreveport and with our partner Ochsner. We thank you for your support tonight and ask that you would please put the date of May 7th, 2020 on your calendar. That will be our next evening for Healers, and we plan to make it even bigger and better. If everyone could stay on the stage for a few more minutes, we're going to take a group photo, and I'd just like our guests tonight to please give one more round of applause for these amazing first responders and healthcare providers. And last but not least, for you people who don't carry a checkbook anymore, you can simply text Healers to 44321 because at LSU we believe in making giving easy. So again, simply text Healers to 44321. Thank you so much for your support and your presence here this evening, and we hope to see you again in 2020. So y'all just hang tight so we can get pictures.